Hello, everybody. Welcome to Life, Liberty, and Truth podcast. I'm Christian, and here's my co-host, Jared.
Hey, what's up?
Today, we're going to be talking about a problem right now that's very close to home. It's affecting everybody very heavily, and it's very talked about right now. We are going to be talking about COVID-19. Now, this is kind of a hot topic because it's still very controversial and everything that's happening. So we're going to go in and put in our opinions on what's happening. Jared, you want to start?
Well, I just think it's affected so many people and it's dragged on so long. And I understand it was something completely new that we didn't really know about, and it was one thing in the beginning to be cautious about it. I understand that part because, again, it's something new. You don't know what you're playing with. So it's one of those things as a country and as a government, you have to take that responsibility to be overprotective about something, even if it's not that big of an issue. However, this was back in March, right? Now we're almost 6 months later, and we're back to basically the same hysteria that we've started with.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like it's an ongoing issue that is always and constantly being talked about, but I feel like no one is really doing anything, especially our governments, our local governments, the state governments. They're not. I mean, I understand the mandatory shutdowns and they close down businesses and things like that, but again, I think it's all over a huge political leverage against Trump in November. I really do. I think this entire thing, bringing down the economy to its knees, a great economy that was the best that it's ever been in the history of the United States, ever. And it took an entire pandemic to bring it down to its knees, a worldwide pandemic, for businesses to shut down, for movie theaters, all these places to shut down, basically the entire population of the United States and the world shutting down. Products, exports, imports coming into the country, creating income for our economy, right? Which was healthy, and it is starting to get better, but it took that to bring it down to the economy's knees. And I just think that it has a huge political agenda behind it. I really don't think these politicians care about the American citizens.
Well, let me chime in real quick.
Go ahead.
I think that's an interesting point because what has Trump's campaign, what is his big thing for this election was, one, the wall, and for two, the economy. That's his big thing right now. And I think it is interesting that people are wanting to shut down the economy, which is Trump's kind of I'm trying to think of the word, his icon. It's what makes him Trump. It's like when you think of Trump, you think of the economy. It's what makes Trump Trump. That's what he prides himself on, is his economy. So for the whole place to be shut down, for whole country, whole world to be shut down, it does kind of feel like it's a slap in Trump's face, even though it's not labeled like that and we're told other things. It's definitely an interesting point. So do you have anything else on that?
I mean, that's for what I have so far, is like the intro, kind of like the premise of what's going on, just the kind of encompassing where we're at from the beginning to where we're at now. That's all I kind of have for now. So
then piggybacking off of that, let's go into the economy and the unemployment rate that's happening now and all the small businesses that are being shut down. Let's move into that.
Okay. So yeah, I just think, the way that the American economy is set up, how the economic system works, because it's based off of competition, and there's nothing that gets more things done than competition. Okay?
And best quality.
Yeah, humans are so competitive, and especially when it's in the business realm and the entrepreneurship of people, they want to top one another, and they want to, set the bar. They want to go further and way beyond anyone can ever imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And so the thing is, you need small businesses for a great economy. And that's why Trump actually pays a lot of attention to these smaller businesses. Now, you may not be able to name these businesses, right? But they really are the ones that create the money flow in the United States and through our government and back to the federal government. So it is these small businesses are very vital to the health of the United States economy. And that's what capitalism is about, really. In my full, honest opinion, that's really what it is competition and, trying to create and innovate, right? And so when you take that away, these small businesses, and all you have are these, and I'm not trying to say anything bad about, but you still have Walmart open, you have Target, you have Amazon, all these, Home Depot, you have these places, right? And again, it's not a knock on them, but yes, they create wealth for our economy, and it's healthy, but these smaller businesses, the way that it flows up to the top, you need these smaller businesses to create the funds and to support. And it's a huge, love triangle first way, to say about the money. Like, it really is kind of it really is a circle.
I think when we talk about economy, and I'm not an economist or anything, but I think it's important to kind of separate two things. I think there's a national economy, and then there's more of a local economy. Now, I don't know if there's a specific term for that. But when we're talking about local, it's those local businesses that keep the local people employed. It's the local businesses that keep money circulating within a certain town, within a certain region. Now, those big businesses are going to be keeping money circulating throughout the nation. And so when you have these national businesses that are only staying open, it's good nationally, but locally it hurts, because it's the local restaurant that's not being able to pay its employees now. It's the local gym that's not being able to have people come in and work out. And those people keep the community happy. They keep the community employed. I mean, yeah, you get big businesses that keep people employed too. But it's the local stuff. It's the mom and pop shops. That's what makes communities unique too. I think that's a very important thing to kind of talk about. You have anything else on that?
I mean, yeah, other than what you just said, I agree with that. It really is just culture in every city. Just, you have these smaller businesses that make that city or town or even state unique. All right? And so you need those things, not just for charisma, but for just creating a healthy and
a diverse,
fluctuating, really diverse and strong economy.
Yeah.
And that's what you need.
Well, and what hope do people have when they can't go out and start their businesses anymore? When anything that they try and do gets shut down, when there's no competition? I mean, competition is important because competition is what creates competitive prices. That's how you get your lowest price and your best quality of goods. That's why when people talk about socialism or socializing anything, socializing medicine, you can't do that, because what's going to happen is you're going to get inefficient, poor quality, expensive medication. I mean, and not necessarily if it's socialized, it wouldn't be.
I think it'd be expensive. They'd up the prices for it.
But it would hit you somewhere else. It always does. But when you have one company controlling everything, what's stopping them from jacking up prices? What's stopping them from just creating poor quality? Because what are you going to do? You don't have any choices. So I think these little places too are good competition within a town, against big business and against, it's important to go and fund your neighbor. These aren't just some person that lives in New York they'll never see. These are the people that are going into your shop that you own, that are living in your town, that are putting money into your city. That it's very important.
And one thing I want to point out on those businesses one last time is, it's when they shut down, they're done.
Yeah.
They're done. It's not they're closed for the season type stuff. No, they're done.
And you're putting an entire family.
They're completely done what they've worked on. And I'm talking family businesses, okay? You're talking these businesses that started from, 2 or 3 generations in the past, right? That have been passed down to you. And it still may be small, but it is a strong, and again, it has a huge influence on the public, because especially those communities who know those people and that business, they love that business because of what they're about and what they do, right? And their quality of work.
Well, any big business started as a small business.
Right, yeah. And so when you shut down the economy like that and just close everything, a mandatory closing, it's not a suggestion, you physically tell them you need to close down or we will shut you down ourselves.
You're sending people in to go and tell them that. You're sending people in to go spy.
Yeah. It's so awful, because you need these businesses like we've mentioned, but when they're done and they're closed forever. These same people may start up a new business somewhere down the line when they get enough money to do so. But what they've created for the past 2 or 3 generations, like I mentioned before, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that they've worked for hard, with passion and care, is done. And that's hard to take in, especially when you work so hard like these people do. And now these families and these employees who were employed by these families that run these businesses, they have nowhere to go.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you have other jobs, but a bunch of other small businesses are closed too. So it is a huge issue with closing down these small businesses, because you need them so much.
Well, what do you say to the people that talk about, well, lives are more important than your business? That kind of goes into mass stuff, but people say lives are more important than the economy.
I mean, I think, all lives are important, right? Life should matter above a ton of other things, and I'm not saying a business should be more important, but what I'm saying here is that when you have a business that you started from the ground up and you took care of it and nurtured it and made it strong, right? It feels like a huge slap in the face when you tell them, no, you're done. So yeah, those people who say that, these businesses shouldn't matter and lives matter a lot more, it's just, I see what they're saying, but at the same time, you're ruining people's lives by taking down these businesses. So by saying you're protecting lives and lives matter, and you're going ahead and shutting down these businesses, you're actually ruining lives in that process. So I believe that you should protect these businesses with your life.
Well, I think it's important to know, and this is going to kind of play into our next thing that we're going to talk about, is that the economy is people's lives. People talk about COVID in the way of, you're saving lives or by wearing a mask, or you're killing people by not wearing a mask, or opening your business, or having people come to your house, that kind of stuff. But the economy is the same way. When people can't work, then you're going to have all kinds of unintended consequences. When people can't make money to feed their family, to support their family, it's going to create a whole different outcome of possibilities and negative effects that people aren't going to talk about. Yeah, the virus is going to kill people, but people not working, not being able to eat is going to kill people. People staying at home is going to kill people. The overdose rate is up 18% in the US. Suicides are up by 30%. Tell me how many people that's killing. How many more people are dying because they don't have anything to do? They're stuck at home. They've lost their job. They have nothing to look forward to. They have nothing to live for in their own eyes. And they're now at home contemplating suicide, or they're frying their liver on alcohol. Their drug addictions are increasing. Tell me how that's not affecting people. So when you're talking about like, oh, the economy isn't as important as lives. No, the economy is lives.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a huge problem that people aren't talking about. What about the people that are suffering at home from these shutdowns?
Yeah, and you got to think about too is like, you got to think about this from a common sense perspective too. Yeah, you want the facts, but I mean, staying home for months at a time, or even a month, I can't imagine staying in my home quarantined for a month.
I know.
That would be awful. I don't know if I'd be thinking about suicide, but I would definitely be struggling because it's just not good socially, and it's not healthy for humans to be locked up and isolated like that.
Well, and two, what people don't talk about is that when you're not out and about and you're not exposing yourself to other viruses, to other diseases, it weakens your immune system. So by staying at home because of a virus, you're not strengthening your immune system to even combat the virus that's out there. So you're going to go and you're going to stay home, you're going to weaken your immune system at home, you're going to battle depression, alcohol, drug abuse, and then you're just going to be thrown out, and you know the virus is still going to be out there, but now you've weakened yourself in so many ways.
Yeah, and even being down mentally like that, you can develop certain issues and diseases and things like that. Just how, I mean, thinking about things and your lifestyle, that changes like you as a person. And it's just not healthy. And you got to think about that from a real common sense perspective of you can't just keep people locked in their homes. And I know people are kind of like starting to get out more because they're just tired of it. But at the same time, there's still people that criticize other people for being outside. It's like, why are you going to criticize them for being outside and living their life?
So let's move that into the whole mask debate. How do you feel about mandatory masks? How do you feel about mask shaming? How do you feel about all that?
Well, here's the thing. If a store requires a mask, then I understand it's so cliche, but just put it on, because here's the thing. I mean, don't be a hero like that, okay? Don't think yourself as being that heroic person in that sense, okay? Because you're not. You're just kind of making things a little worse, especially when times are in so much, like, tension, right? And so I understand, like, really, if these places require a mask, it's okay, put it on. For me, like, I don't like wearing a mask because I think it's dumb. I think it's annoying. But I still put on a mask just because I'm just going to do it, all right? Not because there's a difference between just doing it because you have to and being a sheep and doing it because you've been told to by the government.
Or by
right?
the grocery
and
store.
And that you're being, brainwashed like this. And don't be upset when I say brainwashed, because people are literally being brainwashed to think that, oh, you have to wear a mask. And if these places suggest a mask, okay, so it's a suggestion. They suggest that you wear a mask. So I feel like they give that decision to you as an individual if you should or shouldn't wear a mask, and it's up to you. So in that sense, I probably wouldn't wear a mask because I don't want to wear a mask in the first place. But if I have to and it's mandatory, then I'll put it on. But if I don't have to, then sure, yeah, I'll walk around the store without a mask.
Well,
but I don't want the backlash from these people wearing a mask and coming up to me and telling me you should be wearing a mask, because at the end of the day, how about you mind your own business about it, right?
Exactly. And here's my point with the mask is, if you're wearing a mask, aren't you protected? Theoretically, aren't you protected anyway? So if I'm not wearing a mask and you are wearing a mask and I'm talking to you, nothing's really going to happen if you're wearing the mask. I'm the one that has to worry about it, because your mask is supposedly blocking out the virus, which, side note, most masks don't block out the virus. Yeah. If you're wearing a t-shirt, or if you're wearing a scarf, or if you're wearing one of the buffs that I got, they don't work. Everyone knows that. The particles for the COVID are smaller than the fabrics, and it still goes out. Yep. So the only thing in wearing a mask is that it protects water particles from coming out.
Yeah.
Which is the only reason we're wearing them.
Yeah. You have to think about that. Yeah, they require these masks, but it's been even proven and said that these masks actually don't protect you. And yes, if one person is wearing a mask and you're not, I think what they're trying to get at there is the likelihood of contracting the virus. And so if both people are wearing a mask, then you're more likely to be safe. But at the same time, if the mask really doesn't help in the first place, then I see really no issue with not wearing a mask. And again, I just hate the mask shaming part. Mm-hmm. It's just, how about you just mind your business and do what you're doing, and I'm going to do what I'm doing over here, okay? Especially if it's not required, all right? And I know these people, they'll go into stores when it is required, and they create an issue. They create an issue that doesn't
about something that doesn't really need to be an issue.
Yeah, and I don't really support that at all. I think it just creates more division. We need to move along this together as a society. And yes, people are going to do things differently that you may or may not like. So what? Deal with it. If you're going to wear a mask, wear a mask. All right? I'm not going to shame you for wearing a mask. I'm not going to come up to you and say, "Oh, you're wearing a mask? Okay, that's lame." All right? I'm wearing a mask. I'm more of a man than you are. I'm not going to say that. But people are saying that, the opposite direction if you're not wearing a mask. And they'll come up to you and say, "Oh, what, you don't care about people's health? Oh, you're such a hater. You want to just kill people?" And it's so awful seeing that, because what that does mentally to a person is, first off, that just pisses them off.
Yeah.
All right? And that just creates more issues. And then now they're going to be even more mad, and they're going to continue to not wear a mask. And they're going to have that chip on their shoulder, and one day they're just going to snap when someone says it again. So, again, if the store doesn't require a mask, right? Because I think the store, I think Aldi's, they don't require a mask. They say, okay, you don't have to have a mask. That's perfect. All right.
Well,
they say you don't need one.
And it's not a store or a business's job to enforce laws or orders from the government. It's the police's job. So the fact that one thing that kind of frustrates me is that, why are these stores the ones trying to enforce it? I get they're trying to keep people safe, but it's not their job to enforce it. It's not their job to do this stuff. And I think if you're really that worried about the virus, then stay home.
Yeah.
No one's stopping you from staying home. If you're one of those people that are at risk, wear a mask. Stay at home. But here's the ultimate thing. My body, my choice. If I decide that I want to go get the virus and I don't want to wear a mask, that's my body. You can't tell me what to do. This is the abortion argument, of course, which is a whole different argument, which this does not apply to. Anyway, if I myself want to go and get the coronavirus, or if I want to expose myself to a disease, then that's my own fault. It's called personal responsibility. Yep. It's not the government's job to tell me what I can and can't do. I am my own person, and I know what's best for me. My body, my choice. I don't have any predispositions towards it, any problems where I could potentially die from it. I mean, there's always that small chance, but it's a fraction of a percentage. You know, those people that have a legitimate concern for it, stay home, wear a mask. I support that. But I also support being people not wanting to stay home if they don't want to, not wearing masks if they don't want to. That's up to them.
Right. And again, I'm not saying don't just contract the virus and go into these places on purpose. All right. Like,
yeah, don't spread it to other don't spread it to other people
but,
on purpose. But if you want to get it, then be my guest and get it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the government's place to tell us what we can and can't do.
Yeah, and it's one thing with law and things like that, but when it comes to personal health like that, and them cracking down on you have to wear a mask. Oh, we're shutting down businesses now, and if you don't want to shut down, then we'll shut you down ourselves.
Well, one thing I want to add too is that, you know, people might say, well, oh, you're putting other people at risk. And if this was a legitimate disease or pandemic or concern, I would be more like, okay, I'll listen. You know, at first we agreed to 2 weeks. 2 weeks, no school. 2 weeks shutdown. Okay, that's okay. We don't know what's happening. Flatten the curve a little bit. That's okay. Then they extended to another 2 weeks, and we're like, okay, yeah, 4 weeks in, not 4 months, 4 weeks. And you're kind of like, okay, this seems a little long. I don't really know anybody who's gotten it. I don't know anybody. But, you know, we still don't know what it is. Okay. Well, then they extended another 2 weeks. And you're like, okay, what's the deal here? And you start getting some sketchy stuff about the numbers. You start getting some sketchy things. And you're like, okay, what the heck? Well, here we are 6 months in. And you know what the mortality rate is? 0.05%. If you get it, you are 99.95% chance that you will recover. If this was a real disease, or not that it's a fake disease, if this was a real concern, I should say, clarify that.
Yeah.
Then I would be wearing a mask. You know, I would be worried about spreading it to other people, and you know there is a small part of the population that is at risk here. You know, I'm looking at it. If you're 65 to 74 years old, there's a 20% chance of death rate. Yeah, you shouldn't be going in public. You should be wearing a mask. You should be doing all this stuff. You know, if you know you're at risk, then yes, 100%. Wear a mask. I'll support it. Stay at home. But I'm 18 years old. I'm almost 19 years old. The death percentage of a 19-year-old is 0.121%. That's nothing. I mean, all these come right from the CDC website. I mean, what are you trying to listen? Like, who are you listening to that's telling you all these different numbers? I mean, and I guess this kind of goes into education too, unless you have anything else you want to talk about as far as masks.
Well, yeah, here's the funny thing is, let's just say this was the most dangerous and deadliest virus in the human history, right, of existence, all right? Let's just say that. Is what they're making it seem like. They're making it seem like this is the most dangerous virus we have ever come across, and so many people have died from it, and you need to be safe. All right, here's the thing. Why are we wearing these masks that don't actually protect us then? Why are we not in hazmat suits? Why are we not in special outfits that the government has suggested that we have? And it's like, seriously, the media, and it's the media, they act like this is the most deadliest virus we have ever come across in the United States and probably the world. That's what they think. And you gotta really think about this from a common sense perspective. If you have any common sense as a human being, in any comprehension at all, you would be able to figure out that this is blown way out of proportion here. Mm-hmm. And when truly it really is, it is blown out of proportion. We're probably over 6 months with this issue now, but we're close to 6 months on locking down. And where are we at? We don't even have that many deaths. What is it according to the CDC? Is it 176,000?
CDC deaths in the U.S.?
Yeah.
According to this, from the CDC, from February 1st to June 17th, 2020, 103,000 have died of all ages. Now, we're a month past this, so...
Yeah, so there's definitely going to be more. And again, you don't know the complete... It's not going to be 100% accurate, and we understand that, right? As citizens, we understand that these statistics may not be 100% accurate.
They vary.
I keep saying accuracy, right? So they may not be accurate,
yeah,
right? But when you have these clinics falsifying, and then you have these people and governors saying, okay, if you have COVID, but you die from a heart attack, we're going to write it down as a COVID death.
Well,
and that's the thing that I have an issue with.
The logic behind that is you wouldn't have died if your immune system wouldn't have already been compromised by COVID.
Right, and that's what they try to say, but COVID wasn't the reason for death. And what they're trying to do here is they're trying to raise the death cases here in America. Why? To scare you. To scare people like you that are blinded by the truth.
So explain why the government would want to do that.
Why would the government? Because the way that our government works and how these politicians they want control over you as people. They want to control you. Look at what they've been able to do. They've been able to get you to wear masks for almost over 6 months.
Well, Fauci himself at one point said masks don't do anything, and he said that they could have unintended consequences with you touching your face all the time.
And see, right there, what they've done is they have been able to get you to believe these lies. And I'm saying there's a little bit of truth in these lies, and that's how they twist it.
I think there always is a little bit of truth in every lie.
Right, yeah. And so that's the thing that you got to look for is they may say, yeah, this is truthfully. They may say something true, but there's going to be a lie in there somewhere, and you have to be able, as a human being, you have to have that intellect to understand that you are being played. The United States population is being played by this virus. All right? Really, 99.95% mortality rate. Or survival rate. Yeah, survival rate. Sorry, not mortality rate. Survival rate. But you understand that is just from a perspective and a logical perspective and calculating that in your brain, you have to take that and understand, okay, this isn't as bad as it seems. Yes, people are dying. No, we don't want people to die, but people die.
People die of the flu every year.
So many people die of a ton of other things
every
year. Heart attacks, car accidents, and cancer. You have these...
people have been trying to find a cure for that, and that's not contagious.
But you have these issues, right, that could or are far greater than this virus is said to be. And that's just the thing is, I feel like people are just being played, and everyone's just a sheep. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm trying to get at, is it's okay to wear a mask if it's mandatory, but don't wear a mask because the government tells you that it's safe. All right? Because the government they want control of you. When they can control the people, you're done. When they can get you to do whatever they want you to do, when they can get you to shut down your church services, when they can get you to stop singing in church because they tell you to, they can control you completely.
Well, when you start having the Supreme Court make decisions about that church is a non-essential and that they're telling you can't go to church, that's against your First Amendment right.
Yeah.
You also have a right to assemble. But we're not allowed to we're not even supposed to be together right now.
No.
And so once you start violating the Constitution and you start violating the First Amendment, especially, then you start to have a really big problem now. So, at what point is enough? Because when you start having these decisions made that are literally against the Constitution of the United States of America, that is a huge red flag.
Right.
That's a no-no. And you start having these governors tell you things that aren't even, like, factual. I mean, you think of New York. How many people have died in the nursing homes because they get checks for every COVID patient that they have in a nursing home, and then it just wipes out the nursing home. What is the amount of deaths in New York? New York has, 30% of all of the United States deaths in one state alone.
It wasn't quite 30%. It was 18%.
18%. So that was high.
And if I can find it. Okay, so yeah. This is according to the Democratic and Chronicle article, and it's saying that 32,861 people have died just in New York alone, out of the 176,000 that we mentioned earlier, right? And
roughly.
that's about
one
18%.
number. That's one number. The number I got from the CDC, like I said, from in June was 100,000. Okay. So if you're going off of 100,000, and that's on the low end. High end is 18%.
Okay, this article was in June as well.
Oh, okay.
This is a June article.
Here's another thing that we have a problem with. How can your numbers be off by that much? Mm-hmm. The CDC says 103,000. I mean, these numbers almost doubled. And here's another thing. What's the deal with everything back when we had the when the numbers started increasing again a couple months ago, and they were starting to take off deaths and infection rates because the numbers were forged. What's the deal with that?
Yeah, you had clinics that were, I can't remember which ones, but I heard that you had probably 6 clinics. They were over on the eastern part of the United States, but you had 6 different clinics that tested 100% positive. So they had 100% positivity rate. So that means that every single person that came into that clinic was COVID positive. Now, It'd be one thing if it was one clinic or 2 clinics. I'd give maybe 1 or 2 clinics, depending on the area, right? If you have these certain people, and that's an area where the virus is very active, then I could understand that. But when you have 6, or more, that's 6 that you knew of.
And to be fair, on the clinic side, a lot of people aren't going to hospitals right now because of the stay-at-home orders and stuff. So that would make sense that there would be a couple, right. Because people are only going to come in if they're like, oh, I have COVID.
They think they have it.
But there's also always still a chance. I know multiple people that say, oh, I think I have COVID, and they go and get tested, and they never got it.
Right.
So it's like, okay, well, 100% then in that case, then, okay, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, so I just think it's they're trying, and when I say they, I mean the media, the CDC, the World Health Organization, they're trying to scare the population, okay? If they can strike fear into the population and people buy into that, they can control you. When you're scared of something, and you can be easily controlled, and that is a fact. And you can see that right now. If you don't believe that, you can see that right now with everyone wearing their mask, with everyone being mad at another person for not wearing a mask because they're scared. I don't blame them. They are scared because they've been told, and they're scared. They're like, I don't want to die. That's the impression that they've been put on, and what they've been influenced by is that they will die if they get exposed. And that is just ridiculous when you think of that from logical perspective, right? But it is so sad to see that people really do think they are going to die if they get this virus because they have been told by the government, they have been told by the media, they have been told by the newspapers, by articles, They have read up on this. They have read that, oh, there's 1,000 new cases just in my town alone in the last week. When you read that kind of stuff, and it really puts a false impression on you. And so I can see why people get scared when people confront other people for not wearing masks, because really, I think they actually do want to help people. They're not trying to be rude or anything. Now, there are some rude people, but there are people that are like, look, you're threatening people's health, right? I want me to be safe. I want you to be safe. I want these other people in the store to be safe. I see what they're trying to say, especially when they've been told these false facts and these lies, right? So I can understand that perspective a little bit from a small viewpoint. But I still believe this is a huge, blown out of proportion, political leverage gain for the Democrats. And they've been pushing it. And why do you think the most COVID cases they come from are from Democratic cities?
Yeah.
Why do you think?
Well,
Andrew Cuomo in New York, 18%.
Let's be fair again.
So there you go.
Let's be fair again. I think of the 10 largest cities in America, or is it all 10 or 9 out of 10 are run by Democrats?
Yeah.
So
like that.
To be fair, I mean, the Democrats are more in charge of a larger population.
Yeah, but still, like,
I know. I just want to be fair.
Yeah.
I want to bring up both sides. So
yeah, we can move on from the masks.
So let's talk about children's education. Should schools be open? Yes or no? Quick answer.
Oh, right now, yes, 100%.
Okay.
I think they should be open. School is very essential, and you need it. And with people already being home so long during the summer and being locked down,
we've already talked about the risks of people being unemployed and at home. Now take those risks of drug addiction, of suicides, of alcoholism, and now put kids in the mix. Now these kids are home with these people 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, being exposed to this kind of crap. Not to mention, what about child abuse? I know those numbers have gone up. Domestic violence has gone up.
Skyrocketing.
Yeah, sexual abuses have skyrocketed. You're taking kids. For some kids, school is their only safe place. School for some kids is the only place they can eat. Last year, we were doing community service out of school, and one of the teachers told us that some of the kids, this was the only meal that they would get in every day, is their school lunch. What happens now when you pull those kids out of school and you don't send them back? They're not eating. They're home with their abusive parents. They're home with all this stuff. And, people, again, say, like, oh, well, you don't want to spread the disease. It causes deaths. Well, this causes deaths. And not to mention, that's not even fact. So, according to a study by the Lancet Child and Adolescent Health, child-to-child transmission was found to be 0.3%. Child-to-staff transmission, 1%. Staff-to-child, 1.5%. And staff-to-staff, 4.4%. That's nothing.
No.
Nothing. You're more likely for a teacher to spread it to a teacher. At least let the kids go to school.
Yeah.
Maybe cut down on employees, cut down on keep social distancing, whatever. But for no school at all is ridiculous. And like I said, this is at the highest number, staff to staff, 4.4%. Of the 4.4%, 99.95 of the 4.4 who will get it will survive.
Right. So, yeah, it's just, I feel like it's a huge game. It really is a huge game of just who is going to
be the most woke.
Yeah. Who's going to be the one that keeps pushing this agenda, these false lies, and who are the ones that are actually going to think about this and step back, really step back and look from a bigger picture? Because when you're in the midst of all of it, it looks awful.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, when you look at news articles that just give you it gives
The
you a
numbers,
headline,
yeah.
and then you go and you find out that they have no evidence behind what they're stating, then you kind of have a red flag. You know, trying to find these numbers that we have was a pain in the rear end, you know? How many articles did we look up and it just said something about COVID and gave no fact? It just said, well, in this doctor's opinion, or it said something like, numbers show, and then never gives the numbers.
Right.
Where's your fact? Where are you citing this stuff?
Yeah. Again, schools, they need to be back in session. They really, I understand the concern. Okay, I understand the concern from parents, because as a parent, when you are scared and you're lost in this mess of safety for your kids and safety for yourself, I can see that okay, we're not going back to school, but you have to put your big person pants on, okay, your big adult pants on, and you have to just send your kids to school, because again, it is so unhealthy for kids to be locked up like they are. And I don't mean locked up like, but
not in cages.
yeah, they're not in cages.
And the shutdown.
But like, seriously, I mean locked up as in they have no social time.
Social interactions.
Right? They're locked out of that social
unless it's on a Zoom call or a phone call, which is not healthy. You know, what's the deal with everybody's been like, oh, you know, less screen time, you need to get outside and play more. All those big pushes about healthy kids and going outside. And now what? Now they want you to stay inside? It's like, okay, so what's the deal now? What's the deal with that?
Yeah.
So, what about the riots? We had a big increase in numbers, and we had people saying, was it governors or was it CDC that said that when asking about not health records, but asking about like how people might have contracted COVID, they said that you cannot ask them if they have been to a riot, or not a riot, a peaceful protest, or protest of any way / riot. I'm calling it a riot because yes, we talked about
they eventually turn into riots.
Yeah,
so.
we talked about this. Don't want to go into this too much. We talked about this last week. But let's talk about how BS that is. You can have gatherings of millions of people to go and protest racial inequality, but you can't go to church to worship God or to worship Allah or anything. You can't go to a mosque, a temple, a church, nothing.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it's, again, this issue, I don't want to get into the racial, but this George Floyd stuff really set people off. Okay? I can see why. But you have to see from like a health perspective and from a logic, again, just common sense. When you're in big crowds like that, like rioting and beating each other up, and again, these protests always turn into riots.
Well, let's try and stay away from that.
But yes,
now. Let's just keep this on the COVID part.
But yes, when you're gathered to these protests, right, where there's millions of people, thousands of people, like, you're probably going to get COVID.
Yeah. And you saw a huge spike in numbers.
Yeah.
But you couldn't ask about that. And what's the deal within Oregon? If you're black, you don't have to wear a mask.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that. That was implemented.
Because of racial inequalities. Yeah, but still.
Yeah. Because
of racial inequalities, you know, black people don't have to wear a mask if they don't choose to. But white people do.
But here's the thing.
That's racist.
You can see this from two different things. You can see that from the racist perspective, or you can see it from the health perspective is, let's just say, right, virus, like they've said for the past months, how dangerous it is. Now you've told them, no, don't wear masks, right? So if it really was as dangerous as it was, now you're telling black folk to not wear masks, right? So you have that double, you know, you had the issue on both sides there, right? Where now their health is, under attack, really, if they don't wear the masks, especially when they've been told not to. So, I don't know. I see that as a huge.
There's so many inconsistencies, and that's where I have a hard time following this whole COVID anything, is that how come you can never get a consistent data, you can never get consistent numbers, you can never get consistent opinions? What's the deal with that? And so let's move on. Hydrochloroquine. Let's talk about that.
I don't really know too many statistics on that one, but I know that it's been proven that it can help extremely, especially with these doctors that came out a little while ago and said, let's push hydrochloroquine because who was I can't remember the name of the doctor. She was the black lady, right?
Yeah,
she
they
came
shut
out
down.
And she said, she came out and she said that all the patients that they gave hydrochloroquine to, 100% of them recovered.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I have two things here. Number one, the countries that don't have or that have banned or limit hydrochloroquine, United Kingdom, Sweden, France, United States, Ireland, they have some of the highest deaths per million people than the countries that have been using it: Ukraine, India, Greece, Indonesia, Morocco. The amount of deaths is significantly lower per million people.
Right.
Which is the right way, the right statistic, the right way of calculating it, because different population size. So, it reminds me of this story from, I think it was the representative of Michigan, and she represented Detroit in the House. And she ended up getting COVID. And I remember watching this video. I don't know if you saw it too. She got COVID. And Trump flew her out or something. She was seeing Trump, and she saw Trump's personal doctors, and they gave her hydrochloroquine, and she said it helped tremendously. She said she didn't even know if she would have lived if they hadn't have given that to her. And she said when she went and met Trump that he was a nice guy. He gave her a personal doctor. She had nothing but good things to say about him. And yet they're going and shutting down these methods, and they're trying to shut down possible solutions. And I know why. People say they use it. I don't know what disease they use it for. I forget. It's FDA approved. Am I wrong?
No, it is.
It's FDA approved. But if you take it for a certain amount of years, that you start to have long-term effects. I don't remember if it's heart or liver, something like that. You start having these kinds of problems. Well, a couple things here. Number one, if you're taking it for COVID, you're not going to be taking it for that long.
Yeah, you're going to be taking it a few times.
You're going to be taking it a handful of times, exactly. And then the other point is, if this virus is so deadly, and if you have this horrible chance of death, isn't it worth it to live now and have some side effects later than it is to die to this terrible, horrible virus? Wouldn't that make sense?
Yeah, I think we really need to open our eyes here and see the options that we've been given. And, I mean, unfortunately the media is always going to be in your face about telling you all these things, all these facts. Most of them lies, right? But you got to understand that when you come out with these certain innovative ways to help people, and it has been proven to help people, then I don't see an issue with pushing that.
Yeah.
Especially if there's really no issue. Like you said, there could be long-term effects. But if you're only taking it a few times...
Yeah, it's FDA approved. How bad can it be?
I mean, who knows? But, but if
it works, it works.
Yeah. And
I mean, we don't know... We'll go into this a little bit more, but we don't know the long-term effects a vaccine will have.
Right, okay.
And they're trying to push a vaccine.
Because I really want to talk about that.
They're pushing a vaccine.
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates, who has nothing to do with any kind of medicine. He built his fortune on Microsoft, on computers, programming, technology. Why does Bill Gates have all this crap for a vaccine, and why is he pushing coronavirus? What the heck's the deal with that?
And why has he been talking about it for the past few years? Like, oh, we're going to try to develop a vaccine for a future virus that could be breaking out soon.
Yeah. Yeah, in October they had a convention. I don't know if it was a UN convention or if it was just...
it was probably... I don't know.
Or if it was just in the U.S., but they had... I kid you not. They had a convention for... It was for disaster preparedness for a disease or for a pandemic. It was a pandemic preparedness. And what was the name of was it the virus that they used was COVID-19 or was it
the name?
The name of it.
I don't know.
It was something. It was either COVID or COVID-19 or coronavirus. It was one of those.
They said that it was going to be some other form of the flu.
Yeah,
they said something like that.
And they gave out COVID like plushies or not plushies. They gave out some kind of COVID thing, and it was the exact makeup as the molecule as the actual virus. So why is Bill Gates pushing for this, for one? And for two, mandatory vaccines. Yes or no?
Mandatory vaccines?
Mandatory vaccines.
Heck no.
So why on earth would you give me a mandatory vaccine? Going back to, for one, my body, my choice. It's my body. If I don't want to have a vaccine, I don't have to. And number two, if you have the vaccine and you're immune to it, why do I need to have it? You are already immune.
Right.
What is the point of having that?
I think, again, it has to do with control. It has to do with who is going to do it. Who is going to do this next thing? And again, these things always lead to another thing. They always lead to another. And another and another. At first, it was, okay, let's stay home, lockdown. Okay, now it was, all right, we're going to shut down businesses. Okay, and now it's moved on to, you have to wear masks. Now it's, we're shutting down church. Now it's, oh, wait, you can't sing in church. And so it keeps going, it keeps moving on and on.
Every time you think it's going to end, something else pops up.
So now, let's just say they have this vaccine. They're going to push the crap out of this vaccine. I guarantee you, when they have any sight line of this vaccine, they are going to push this so hard on society around the world, and they're going to say these miraculous things about this virus. But let me tell you, you have flu shots, okay?
And the flu shots don't even work.
So what is to say that these vaccines that they've created over the past under a year...
Well, my mom has talked to a practitioner about the vaccines, and they say that you can have, there are unintended consequences behind the flu vaccine that they don't tell you. So you can have the vaccine and either get the flu from the vaccine, or you can get it worse than you would have got it if you would have just not taken the vaccine at all. So there's unintended consequences of a vaccine. And anytime the government is going to force me to do something, automatically don't want to do it. If someone willingly wants to take a coronavirus vaccine, again, personal responsibility, good for them, go for it. If I don't want to take it, I shouldn't have to take it. It's not the government's job to tell me what I can and cannot do. We live in a republic. The people are supposed to rule. And it's not the government telling me what I can and can't do. The point of government is to defend your God-given rights of life, liberty, and property. The point of the government is not to tell you what you can and can't do. They defend what God has already given us and what our natural rights are. They defend our natural rights. That is the point of government. The point of the government is not to be a parent to us. The point of government is not to tell us what we can do. The point of government isn't even totally to keep us safe. The point of government is to defend our natural rights. And so, by having a mandatory vaccine, they're stepping beyond their reaches. Any comments, Jared?
I mean, that's why a small government is so much better, because the bigger government you have, the more power that they have over you. And the more control they can have over you. And I see that as a huge downside. And We have a fairly big government, but as far as like
Power.
how big it is, I think Trump is doing a fairly good job in controlling things around here, right?
You can only control so much.
Enforcing what he can. It all really comes down to the individual governments, the state governments, and let's just say California has so much power and influence over the entire nation. Like, when California does something, other states are watching too.
Well, New York and California are always competing for everything. Even stuff like fashion. Like, anytime you see any kind of fashion or trends, it starts in New York or California first and always tends to migrate to other parts of the countries.
Yeah. So, I think it's good to be cautious about big governments because...
I think it's good to be cautious about any government.
Yeah, but I think you should be a lot more cautious over these bigger governments because they can obviously just have way more power over you and control the entire populace.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to touch on?
Other than just this entire COVID experience has taught me that I'm going to talk about my COVID experience. The entire COVID experience has taught me that the truth is right there in front of you. It really is. And it's all common sense, guys. It really is. It's all common sense. With wearing the mask, does it actually help?
Jared.
Not really. What?
Are you accusing people of not having common sense?
I'm accusing people who aren't utilizing their common sense. All right.
Fair enough. Keep going.
So people may have common sense, but they ain't using their common sense. All right. So I just think we have to be mindful of what's going on around us because, especially with COVID-19, coronavirus, the Wuhan flu, the Chinese virus, whatever you want to call it, it's the same thing. Just be smart about it, be knowledgeable, read up on it. Don't just let the media tell you what's going on. Okay, listen to what the media is saying, but do your own research.
Digest it.
Yeah.
Look at things from both sides. Find a spot somewhere generally in the middle.
Okay. Otherwise, you're just going to be lost in this haze. You're done.
Okay. Very last thing. Very, very last thing. Is saying the China virus racist?
No, dude.
And why?
Because it came from China. It came from China.
Okay, so here's my defense over why the China virus is not racist, and we'll end it, okay?
All right.
Okay, so in 1917, there was this new virus called the Spanish flu. Guess where the Spanish flu came from? Texas. Why the heck we call it the Spanish flu if it's not even from Spain? And that wasn't racist. We still call it that. So why do people get so upset over a virus that came from China and we call it the China virus when no one seems to get upset about the Spanish flu that didn't even come from Spain? That's my argument.
Yeah, just be smart, people. That's all. Have a mind.
Think for yourself. That's our word of advice. Think for yourself. Don't do what people tell you to do unless it's quality advice. Or your mom, your parents. Yeah. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up. Thank you for listening. We appreciate it. Thank you to our sponsors. If you would have any comments or if you would like to donate or anything, get a hold of us on social media. We have Instagram. We have Twitter. Listen to us on however you find your podcast, and we put our videos on YouTube also. Thanks for listening. See you guys later.